Hollywood has become a town of remakes in recent years, with the number of sequels doubling since 2007, and no signs of stopping. Franchise movie making has definitely become the norm. What's funny though is that they don't seem to be getting any better at making them. Both seem to alienate audiences, either old ones or new ones. And while there are some great examples of franchise movie making out there, for every one good movie that comes out, there always seems to be at least two bad ones. However, Hollywood's never been afraid of franchise filmmaking. In fact, it's no stranger to sequels or remakes at all. The first sequel was made in 1914, the first remake in 1904, when Sigmund Lubin ripped off The Great Train Robbery. And while the first reboot didn't come until 1984 with The Return of Godzilla, they have since become a constant presence. A lot of these movies have been good too, with work such as The Thing, The Fly, and even Scarface outshining their predecessors. So why is there so much bad franchise movie making these days? And more importantly, what does good franchise movie making look like? Well, I think the best way to answer that question is to do a case study. And in my mind, there's no better example of this than the Transformers, because this one is fantastic. And this one is awful. Like most kids' television in the 80s, the Transformers was essentially a half-an-hour toy commercial. The only difference is that at some point, someone decided Transformers was going to be a really good toy commercial, with a rich mythology, character development, and powerful themes. And that's the reason it keeps on being remade, is because something about the Transformers franchise is eerily timeless. And that's really visible in the 1986 film by Nelson Shin. And it's also visibly not there in the 2007 Michael Bay film. The problem with the 2007 film is that it barely feels like a Transformers film. It more feels like Shia LaBeouf's MacGuffin quest featuring giant robots. The film barely focuses on the Transformers, with it taking until minute 53 for the first Autobot to transform. It's littered with moments where you can't tell Autobots from Decepticons. It even fumbles characterizing the most important villain in the series, Megatron, waiting until the third act to even introduce him, and barely characterizes him besides killing one Autobot.
No! I want two!
And Optimus Prime calling him brother for some reason.
You left me no choice, brother.
And he's only passive-aggressive to Starscream.
You fail me yet again, Starscream.
So what does the animated film do differently? Basically everything. Being a continuation of the television show does give it a lot of advantages. Of course, being closer to the origin of what made Transformers so culturally relevant. However, I don't think it's an excuse for ignoring the core of the franchise and a lot of bad filmmaking. So for the rest of the video, I just want to go through the 1986 film and analyze how its commitment to the source material makes it a better film. Straight out of the gate, you have the art style. It's vivid and brilliant and just a more detailed version of what you have for the show, and that just bodes well. Also, this first scene doesn't focus on any established Transformers characters. Instead, it focuses on Unicron. You can immediately tell he's a villain because of his coloring. The dark orange and gray are very common for villains in the series, and this assumption of evil is only compounded by his alien, strange exterior and interior. We also see him eat a planet that looks a lot like Cybertron and has cybernetic life forms on it. So not only do we know he's evil, but we're also wondering, who is Unicron? What is this massive planet-eating cybernetic planet? After a few story beats just explaining the backstory, we get the first Autobot transformation at minute 5. Another good sign. Then we get the first Autobot Decepticon fight scene, and the Autobots just get destroyed, with every Autobot involved dying and all of them being introduced in episode 1. This only installs further that Megatron is one bad dude. He then calls Starscream an idiot.
You're an idiot, Starscream.
And schemes to attack Autobot City.
No! Such heroic nonsense.
Again, really bad dude. We are then introduced to Hot Rod and Cup, two new Transformers. We're also introduced to Daniel, who's the only human of the piece, but he barely gets any airtime. The thing I want to talk about next, though, is the battle for Autobot City, because it is glorious. The 13-minute sequence is not only just well-directed, it's also incredibly clear who is an Autobot and who is a Decepticon. With the Decepticons in darker, cool colors, and the Autobots in warm, bright colors. Just look at a couple screenshots. It's immaculate. Then, as the sequence comes to its end, we get the moment that everyone has been waiting for. Megatron versus Optimus Prime. This is good versus evil, freedom versus control, Autobot versus Decepticon. It is the essence of the Transformers franchise, and for any Transformers movie to be a success, it has to get this fight right. And this one speaks for itself.
Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron. I'll rip out your optics! Fall! Fall!
Compare that to the 2007 Showstopper version of this fight, and you'll notice one thing. There's a lot of Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, Sam!
The first 24 minutes of the 1986 Transformers film feel like it's the last episode of the television show. The culmination of 50 episodes of bad blood boiled down to an epic conclusion. A total of 18 original characters die, including Megatron and Optimus Prime. The film really respects what came before it, even infusing its new villain with the characteristics of the old ones. So how do you make a good franchise film? Respect. Franchises exist because something is so beloved that it has to stick around. It might change as the years go on, but something about it is timeless, and that's the one thing that can't be ignored. That's why the Marvel movies do so well. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, which is based off of one of Marvel's weirdest properties, stays true to its source material. Oftentimes, though, the weirdness is exchanged for a gritty reboot, and that timelessness, the one thing you can't forget, is the one thing that's lost.